Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach on the Veritas Catholic Radio Network, 1350 on your AM dial, 103.9 on your FM dial, spreading the truth of the Catholic faith to the New York City metropolitan area. Two things, you know what I'm about to say. Please download the Veritas app where you'll have access to all of our station's content, not just the front line with Joe and Joe. And please share it with your friends. And hey, speaking of sharing, if you like what Joe and I do, we go live Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern time on Rumble, X, Facebook, and YouTube till they shut us down, of course, which we're expecting sometime soon. Having said that, we're still there. And if you like what we do, share those videos, like, subscribe, try to help us out, and get our conversations out there, please. Not because Joe and I are great, even though we like to think we're okay, but because we have conversations that we feel are relevant. Now, I say all the time in the beginning of every show, once more, let us go into the breach. When you talk to Jennifer Lahl, who's joining us today, you're going into the breach. Okay. And, especially, and you'll know what I mean in about 3 seconds. Jennifer is the co-author of the Detransition Diaries. Okay. If you don't feel like you've just stepped into the breach, let me break it to you. You just have. Okay. The Detransition Diaries are available at Ignatius Press. And Jennifer is the co-author of the book. For those of you who don't know Jennifer Lahl, she's the founder and former president of the Center for Bioethics and Culture. She spent 25 years in pediatric nursing and senior level hospital management before founding the CBC. She's an award-winning documentary maker. She's produced several films, including Transmission, What's the Rush to Reassign Gender, the Detransition Diary, Saving Our Sisters and the Lost Boys Searching for Manhood. Jennifer Lahl, welcome to the front line with Joe and Joe, our sister.
Thank you. It's so good to meet you guys. I mean, what's not to love about a couple of New York City guys?
Jersey. Even though we're in proximity in New York City, but we are Jersey
East
guys.
Coast.
Even though I got out of Dodge about 2 years ago, I'm in Arizona, but I'm a Jersey boy,
Okay.
But thank you so much. And yeah, we're going to have a lively conversation. You can't shut Joe and I up, but we will try to let you do all the talking. Having said that, I'm going to hand it over to Joe, and I'm serious. This is an important conversation. And everybody understands when you're talking about this particular topic, there are consequences in this culture that we're in. People don't like for you to have these conversations, but that's what we do. Joe Resinello, let's get rolling.
Jennifer, we always begin with a prayer to Our Lady. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, never was it known that anyone who sought your help or sought your intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, we fly unto you, a virgin of virgins, our mother. To you we come, for you we stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not our petitions, but in your clemency hear and answer us, amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Well, Jennifer, I'm going to give you a little Resinello history. You know where I'm going to go with it as we go. My grandmother came here in about 1904. She was born in 1902, my father's mother. Her mother crossed the Atlantic with 5 kids. One of the sons was crippled. Her husband was in America. They died as a result of the Spanish flu, both of them. And the kids had to raise themselves, and they all went on to marry. They weren't rich, but they led productive lives. My grandmother had a 4th grade education. She lived with me as a young boy. If you told her that there were more genders outside of boys and girls, she would have hit you over the head with the broom. She would have hit you over the head with the broom. She had a 4th grade education. And now our society, all the smart guys, all the smart ladies are telling us different because they control every institution of power in America. They're forcing this down the throat of people, regular people who I believe don't believe this. Normal people from Hawaii to Maine. You get on the street, you're shoveling snow, you tell your neighbor, Jerry, there's more than 2 genders. That kid, he could be a girl. He'd hit you in the head with the snow shovel. That's what happens in New Jersey, Jennifer. You get hit with the snow shovel. So, how did we get here? How did we get here?
Well, you got to read the book. Yeah, I mean, when you guys introduced me, you said that I had worked in nursing for many, many years, and I worked in pediatric nursing, and we knew when babies were born, they were boys or girls. We didn't assign any gender at birth. And we really talk about, because my co-author Callie Fell and I are both nurses, we have a strong interest in medical ethics. And my husband's grandmother lived through the 1906 earthquake out here in San Francisco, which is where I am in Nutso land, which you know, we kind of can talk about what's going on in this state as it relates to gender. But you know, we have a long sordid history of medicine going bad and medicine being influenced by culture, by academics, by media. And we're living that right now. I mean, you can look back to the Tuskegee studies when doctors thought it was a good idea to not treat Black men with syphilis when they knew they should treat them as part of a study. We look at what happens in Nuremberg and the Nuremberg trials when we uncovered the scandalous stuff that was being done to, you know, human beings in the name of advancing medicine. We look at the forced sterilization program across the United States. You know, Oliver Wendell Holmes, Justice Holmes, 2 generations of imbeciles is enough, or 3 generations is enough. You know, we had our last forced involuntary sterilization in my state, California, in the early 2000s of a woman in prison. So medicine has this long history of going bad. You know, girls gone wild, medicine gone bad, doctors behaving badly. And I say that we today, listening to your program, we are going to witness the crumbling of this point in time in history, medical history. Unlike other culture wars, unlike other scandals that we've been fighting for decades, you know, many of us will die before, you know, X happens or Y happens, but we are witnessing the explosion of this corruption in medicine, and we will witness the downfall of it.
Joe, before you came on, Jennifer Lahl is joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Jennifer is the co-author of the Detransition Diaries. Please buy it from the publisher. We always want you to support our Catholic publishers, Ignatius Press. And if I didn't say that, Father Fessio will get mad at me. Also, he'll get mad at me if I don't say, tell your local parish bookstore to buy it and stock it on the shelves. It will sell. So make that recommendation. This is, you know, Joe and I were talking, Jennifer, before the show, okay? There doesn't seem to be, like, we were like, Joe made the he used the example of Poland under the Soviet Union. Okay, it took the entire nation eventually to unify against the Soviet Union behind Lech Walesa and the Solidarity movement, and ultimately, without really firing a shot, they beat the Soviet Union. Okay, and subsequently communism collapsed. There's not unity on this topic. People are afraid to open their mouths. Now, again, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Here's where I went with the conversation, and I love your comments. When you get, and yes, I'm going to use the word, when you get liberal parents, okay, who are on paper, hypothetically, in theory, in favor of all this, and they say, who am I to judge? And who am I to say how many genders there are? And their 15-year-old daughter comes home and doesn't have breasts anymore. And they say, what happened? They say, well, the doctor said I didn't have to tell you anything, and I wanted to do that, and I was under the law, didn't have to do that. That's when people are going to start changing their mind. That's when there's going to be a sea change, and people are going to get unified around the idea that this nonsense has to come to an end. That's my rant. I'd love your comments on it, Jennifer.
Well, again, using my horrible state of California, very liberal state, as an example, we're a sanctuary state. So if you live in a state that has banned puberty blocking of children or banned cross-sex hormones of children, those children can come to California. We will welcome them. We will use taxpayer dollars to destroy their fertility, ruin their bodies, and agree with the lie. However, in liberal California, the polling shows parents have had enough. And we are gathering signatures like crazy out here. It's a total grassroots movement where lifelong liberal progressive Democrats are leading the charge to get enough signatures to ask California voters, do you agree that boys do not belong in sports with little girls? Do you believe that boys do not belong in bathrooms with little girls? Do you believe that the state schools have no business hiding from parents the fact that when their child is at school, we're going along with the lie that they are now a little boy and they have a new name and new pronouns? We are gathering signatures like crazy, and the polling shows if we have enough signatures and get it on the ballot, California voters will say, hell no, you need to stop this. So, you know, back to my point that, you know, we have hope that we're going to win this. And that is because liberal progressive. Now, yes, there's some crazy, loony, purple hair, you know, pink hair, whatever, parents that, you know, every child's a flower, and sure, of course, boys can be girls. They're the outliers. And those are the ones that are intimidating everybody. But, you know, courage begets courage, and more people are speaking out. And you come for people's kids, and that's when people wake up.
I'm going to throw that over to Joe, because I know that that's a big thing he talks about here at the front line with Joe and Joe. When you mess with people's kids, that's unifying to me. Like that means, okay, I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you want higher taxes or whatever the case might be, and you want more government spending. Okay, those are things we could argue about. But I think we should be able to argue that, you don't mess with people's kids. Okay? That's one of the things we hear about. Joe, I'm going to throw it over to you.
There's a rise in this amongst kids. I've seen certain statistics. You probably know them better than I. 30% of certain colleges, people are identifying as X, as Y, as this. I'll be honest with you, Jennifer. I don't even understand these terms. I'm an old man. I'm 53 years old. I mean,
You ain't that old. You ain't that
but
old.
I mean, I don't go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got 5 kids. Me and my wife, I go to the store. I come home. I cut the lawn. I don't do anything. So I don't know what's going on. People will say cisgender, queer, this. I don't even know what they're talking about. And I'm being honest. Gen X, Latinx. What does this mean? I don't even know what it means. But yet it's registering with kids. I have my thoughts. I'm going to throw them at you, and then you tell me the facts. I think kids are confused. Some kids are wounded. Our families are breaking down. 40% of our children are born outside of the wedlock. They need to identify with something, with anything. People don't go to church anymore. They don't have a North Star. So it's almost like a gang. They identify with something, anything. And that's why I think it's on the rise. If I'm wrong, you tell me, because it is on the rise and people have to watch it. Please tell me the facts.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we see more and more young people, children, adolescents, whatever, that are medicated. They're in therapy. They have depression. I mean, in the olden days, if you were having a bad day, your mom said, get outside and don't come home until the street lights come on for dinner. We don't play outside anymore as children. You're right. We're not in safe communities with other like-minded families. So kids are always going to rebel in some way. I'm older than you, Joe. Whether it be how many people can you squeeze in a Volkswagen, bug, we used to do that. Somebody had a car and we'd see if we can get 20 people shoved in it. We'd smoke behind the school, the building, we'd sneak alcohol, whatever. And the problem with this rebellion that kids are having right now is it has lifelong negative health complications. You can't put your breast back on after you've had a double mastectomy for top surgery. It's a whole different surgical procedure, unlike women who have cancer. In our book, back to the book, because Ignatius Press wants me to promote the book, we talk about the stories of these young people. Yes, they have had trauma in their background. One woman was severely abused sexually, mentally, by men in her own family. So there's real trauma that these kids are undergoing. And is that because of the breakdown of the family? Is it because of the breakdown of religious traditions? Probably yes, all of that. Is it because kids spend way too much time on the internet unsupervised? One girl in the book, Chloe Cole, she talks about at 9 years old being entrenched in horrible pornography. Kids have access to pornography that we never, when we were growing up, had. Maybe you saw somebody who had a magazine delivered in their mailbox in a covered brown bag, but the level of pornography that these kids see every day. So autism is on the rise. Why are we having all these kids that have these, autism, Asperger's, or on the spectrum? There's so much mental health stuff that has to be addressed. And then they find on the internet, well, you're not happy. You must be born in the wrong body. That will solve your problem. That will make you feel at peace. That will make you feel whole. Is this lie that you were born in the wrong body?
Well, Jennifer Lahl's joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. We're discussing her new book. Please go out and buy it from the publisher, Ignatius Press, the Detransition Diaries. Jennifer, where else could our audience members buy the book?
Well, it's available on Amazon for those who don't want to, buy it through Ignatius Press, which I don't know why. Why would you want to support Amazon over Ignatius Press?
That's what we say all the time. Don't buy it from Amazon, but it is available there. So if you're buying 3 or 4 other things and you see Jennifer's book, please buy it. Jennifer, if you don't mind, let me stay on politics for a second. There's not going to be an overtly political conversation, but let me stay there for a second. I'm tired of hearing conservatives. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, oh, he's so conservative. Now, again, we're conservative-minded people, okay? Because the so-and-so doesn't want, he's going to pass a law and not allow any of this stuff up until the child is in the 4th grade. You didn't solve the problem there, Mr. Governor. Okay. Now let me take it even further. I think even if an adult wants to do this, there needs to be waiting period. There needs to be psychological evaluation to talk about all the things that you just described. Jennifer, to go into a person's past and find out, like Chloe Cole. I think she's a hero, by the way. I sing her praises anytime I can because she's got some stones, just like you do, because you're writing this book. Okay, that look at what she went through. You're going to tell me that after a psychological evaluation, you're not going to determine that a 9-year-old girl watching pornography is why she has these feelings? Please, I think you know where I'm going, Jennifer. I'm tired of the politics about, oh, we're not going to allow it below 6th grade. That's not the solution. Jennifer, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. There is that split in the debate, leave the kids alone. But once you're an adult, you can do whatever the heck you want with your body. And if you want to chop off your bits and pieces, more power to you. I don't agree that that is proper medicine. There's no reason for a medical doctor to say, you have a psychological problem, and we're going to help your psychological problem by removing your male or female genitalia. I'm sorry, that is not what medicine is to do. That's back to Nuremberg. That's back to experimentation. And, two of the, because we have made films, we just released a film like a few weeks before the book came out, the Detransition Diaries, called The Lost Boys, Searching for Manhood. And we explore this, phenomenon, if you will, just from the lens of men. Why are all of a sudden boys thinking they're women? Why are all of a sudden boys taking estrogen and wanting breasts and wanting to have bottom surgery? And two of the boys, young men in the film, as adults, legal adults of age, had total bottom surgery. They had everything down there removed and turned into female, and it's a train wreck. And so this notion that, okay, once somebody is 21 or 23 or 26, they can do whatever they want. These men live with incredible regret because it didn't fix their mental health problems.
It reminds me, I'm going to hand it over to Joe. Jennifer Lahl joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please go out and buy her book, The Detransition Diaries. It reminds me of like when I was a kid and I saw my father go into the car dealership, right? And the guy, the salesman, the slick salesman, he sells him this car. And my father didn't have a lot of money, so it was always a used car. But the salesman assured him that car was a great car, looks great. Look, it's an 83 Monte Carlo. It's two-tone with a Landau roof. How does it not look great? I just aged myself, by the way. Dated myself. But my point is, and then when you drive it and you realize something's wrong, and then you go back and the salesman says, well, what do you want from me? You bought it. Isn't that what's also going to happen to a lot of these people? These doctors aren't going to follow up after they've mutilated these boys and these girls. They're not going to, there's no follow-up visits. That's it. I gave you what you wanted. It's almost like the devil. I gave you what you wanted. What are you beefing to me for? Give me a quick comment on that, Jennifer, please.
Yeah, it's kind of that buyer's remorse. You came in here, you were informed, you signed the forms, I told you the risk, blah, blah, blah. You said, yes, doctor, I want this. So, but that gets back to why we made the film first, the Detransition Diaries, and then Ignatius Press asked us to turn it into a book, that the number of regrets stories is just every day. More and more people have walked down this path, believed the lies that they were born in the wrong body, believed the lie that surgery, medicine, whatever could fix them, and now they're detransitioning. So hopefully, as more and more of those people speak out, more and more people will listen to those stories and say, let me find a better way. One young man in the film, The Lost Boys, he had a serious drug and alcohol problem. And never once did anybody say, and he says it in the film, if anybody was truly a good counselor, they would have said, let's get you sober first. Let's get you sober first, and then we can sort out all these other feelings that you're having. So there's mounting regret. The problem I see but again, it gets back to courage begetting courage, and the more people speak out, the more people feel courageous to speak out. The detransition people are just viciously attacked because they've come off the the trans cheerleading bus and speaking about their regret, speaking about the fact that they weren't offered proper mental health care. And so they're vilified. And so there's more and more detransitioners that we don't even know about because they see what happens once you speak out. Well, you weren't really trans anyway. That's what they're told. Well, you were,
Right.
you misdiagnosed yourself.
Right. Joe Resinello.
I recently saw a pretty good interview, I thought, anyway. Tucker Carlson interviewed, you may have seen it, a doctor in Houston who basically was a whistleblower in a major hospital. Really good interview. And he said something I think that's key. He was very level-headed. Now, doctors are smart people, academically speaking, across the country. It's very hard to get into med school in America. But what he said as a doctor who blew the whistle on this, said doctors that are for it believe they're doing something good. He said he gave people the benefit of the doubt. And to be honest with you, if you don't think you're doing something good, well, then you are in Nuremberg. You're a sociopath. Like and I want to explore this. I believe because we've lost our North Star, we don't know what's right and wrong anymore. And as a society, we're clinging to things. And many people are very sincere. They believe they're helping that young girl because his point was, as the doctor, if you aren't of that mindset, you're like a doctor in frigging Auschwitz in plain English. Like you're insane. And most of these men and women aren't. They think they're helping this kid. How did we get here? Well, do you think I'm wrong? Because I actually agree with that guy. People actually will look you in the face and be like, I'm helping this girl. And parents, my kid's going to commit suicide if I don't do this. They think they're helping the kid. They're destroying the kids. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this gets back to my robust criticism of medicine today. Clearly there are plenty of good doctors out there that have not bought into this. Yeah, and we interview quite a few of them in our film Transmission, What's the Rush to Reassign Gender? And, as no surprise, several of the big experts in the United States who oppose this are physicians of faith. They know what a man and a woman is. They know what a good doctor is supposed to do. You're speaking of Ethan down in Texas. We've had quite a few more whistleblowers that have come out. And so we have, at one level, we have the top-down approach in the United States. We have the American Academy of Pediatrics that tells all pediatricians in America what the standard of care is. We have the American Endocrine Society, which is the professional group that says, how are we going to practice endocrine medicine? Who's going to get puberty blocking? All of, and those professional societies are woke. They've been captured. Now, and this is a small minority. These are membership groups that are run by 30, 40 experts in the field that then tell every other physician in the United States how they have to practice medicine. Part of the problem is that you could be sued if you're not following your professional society's guidelines and you're not treating these gender-confused children by the way the American Academy of Pediatrics says you have to treat them, then you could be sued, right? Because your governing agency says this is how you have to take care of these people. But the cracks are there. The cracks are there. I mean, Michael Schellenberger out here in California, who ran for governor against Gavin Newsom, didn't didn't win, just released 2 weeks ago the WPATH files. And the WPATH is, big long name for the, Professional Society of Transgender Health Medicine. It's a bunch of ideologues that have said, this is how we're going to practice medicine. And he has exposed them. He's got the receipts on how this is pseudoscience. It's not based on any kind of data provable. The things that people are caught in private Zoom meetings saying about how they'll treat people that have serious mental health problems. One person had multiple personality disorders, and they were talking about how you had to get consent from all of the different personalities. And you're thinking, this is this is crazy. So, you know, the cracks are there. The institutions are going to be, you know, they're backpedaling already. We're already seeing people walk back. Their association from WPATH, you know, it's kind of like that woman you gave me. It's, you know, it's her fault. It's not me. It's that woman over here. You know, so I'm hopeful, Joe. I'm hopeful that, you know, there will be again more and more doctors who will stand up and say, you know, not on my watch, not in my practice. I don't do that.
Jennifer Lahl, let me ask you a question. We got about a minute and a half before the break. Because there's probably, my guess is not so insane doctors in America that don't buy this. How do these, I don't know what you would call them. I don't think you call them bureaucrats. How do these people, this small group of people, gain so much power over an entire profession? And how, I know it's a long question, but we only have about a minute and a half before the break. How does you start taking power away from them?
Well, they're membership organizations. I mean, one of the way to start giving them power is to just not be a member of them. I mean, it is hard when you're a physician, if you're a pediatrician and you're not a member of the American Academy of Pediatrics. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, it's a credential. You know, you can hang it on your, you know, your wall. So I think one of the ways is, you know, just expose them. You know, these, you know, we end the Detransition Diaries book with how is this going to collapse? One of it's going to be whistleblowers. We've had plenty of whistleblowers coming out, whether they be doctors, whether they be therapists that work in gender clinics. You know, there's plenty of whistleblowers and lawsuits. And we have, in my state, California, we have 3 lawsuits right now against Kaiser Permanente. And Chloe Cole is one of those lawsuits. Two others is one as a young man and one as a woman. So, you know, I think the way the power comes back is, you know, expose the emperor, remove your, you know, association from these professional bodies and demand new leadership.
Absolutely. Jennifer Lahl's joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. We're going to take a quick break. Jennifer is the co-author of the Detransition Diaries. You can buy it from Amazon. We prefer for you to buy it from the publisher, which is Ignatius Press. And if I didn't say that, Father Fessio will get mad at me. And please buy it from your local Catholic bookstore. And if they don't have it on the shelf, recommend that they put it on the shelf. Jennifer, real quick before we go to break, can you let our audience know maybe if you have a website, social media, or perhaps people, our audience members of Veritas, could watch your documentaries also?
Yeah, the Center for Bioethics and Culture Network has a really huge YouTube channel, and all of our films are available free there. I spend a lot of my time on X at Jennifer Lahl, and our website is cbc-network.org.
Okay, and I'll make sure that I post that, also tag you when I post this on social media, particularly on X. So if you're just joining us, Jennifer Lahl is with us. We are in the breach. We're talking about her book that she co-authored, the Detransition Diaries, and we have another great segment coming up. Please don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello, and we are way in the breach with Jennifer Lahl. We are discussing her new book that she co-authored, The Detransition Diaries, that's available at Ignatius Press. If you are doing a little shopping on Amazon, you could find it there too, but we'd ask you to buy it from the publisher. Also, Jennifer, one more time, the Center for Bioethics and Culture has a YouTube channel and an X channel. What is it again for our audience?
The Center for Bioethics and Culture Network is the YouTube channel, and my personal X is at Jennifer Lahl, or the CBC Network on X.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Jennifer. Joe Resinello, where do you want to start for the second segment?
Well, just a quick comment on the last statement Jennifer made regarding these small like groups of ideologues that are basically controlling the narrative. You mentioned some things that could potentially change the tide, lawsuits being one. The second would be my Italian grandmother who would beat them over the head with a broom. You see, that would work too. If she was around, I think that would be effective. But sadly, she isn't, and not enough people have brooms. I wanted to just say that because I think it's just common sense. I can't even believe we're having this discussion, and it's real, and it's happening, and it's sad. With that, in this book, you talk about some individuals, personal stories, 5 women, 2 men. How'd you meet these people? How'd you document it? Break it down for us.
Well, a lot of the people I meet because they're very active on social media. So whenever we're in production on a new documentary film, we're looking for people that are bold enough to tell their story. that are articulate enough to tell their story. And we just reach out to them and, we interview them on phone, Zoom, just sort of tell them about who we are and what we're doing and see if they want to, get involved in the work that we're doing. Some people turn us down because, even though they're public, they don't want to be, in a book. Books live on forever and ever. The internet lives on forever and ever. But yeah, we just find people through social media. And that's how people find me. They find me through the work I do and they say, hey, let me tell you my story. I mean, I get parents that reach out to us all the time. I found your films, I found your book. I have a child that's gender confused. What can I do to help them? And then we, source them out to all the networks that we're involved in.
Jennifer, let me stay on for a second. Yeah, Joe said his grandmother would hit them over the head with a broom. Okay, let's use that broom figuratively, or or a different kind of broom. Okay, you mentioned lawsuits. Now I know Chloe Cole has a lawsuit. You mentioned that. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example, if I may. Nick Sandmann was down in Washington. CNN reported falsely about him and a couple of other stations. He sued them. He sued them for libel. Okay, I believe it was libel. Okay, and he ended up settling. And now I always said this on the show at the front line with Joe, Jennifer. His father and mother and the decision they made to settle with these networks after having slandered him, that's their business. Okay, but having said that, the lawsuit originally was $250 million against each network. Okay. How about if you had somebody who just said, I want to prove a point here and sued them and didn't need the money or was not enticed by a settlement and said, no, I'll take this all the way to the Supreme Court if I have to. This is going to cost you a lot of money. And then after we set that precedent, you won't do this again because then you'll know it's going to cost you that much money again and again and again and again. How important hitting them over the head with brooms that cost them a lot of money. Again, Joe says on the show all the time, Jennifer, money moves the dial. Okay, start costing them money and see how quickly they stop. Jennifer, I think you know where I'm going. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really tell an individual how they have to manage their own legal suit and stuff like. Yeah, I prefer not to see cases settled out of court because then it's gagged, and then we don't ever get to see who was at fault. We don't ever get to see how much money was paid out because that's all part of the deal. You settle quietly and nobody knows. And a lot of the work I do in another space of work that I'm involved in. I deal with a lot of victims who have sued and they've sued, and settled, which is unfortunate because I like to be able to scream to the hills. He was wrong. The court said he was wrong, and he had to pay $10 million. And I think that speaks volumes. Part of me is worried about taking these kind of cases to the Supreme Court. So what if they rule the wrong way?
Yeah.
What if we get a big case to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court kind of goes, well, you were informed. You were told. You were, your parents, So it's a risk that we run. And then once the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, is ruled, we're left in a Roe versus Wade fight for 50 years because the Supreme Court has had the final say. So it's kind of one of those, be careful what you ask for unless you're going to get what you ask for.
Right. And it's like you said, more importantly than the money, it would be able to speak about what happened.
Exactly.
So if you win or you settle a lawsuit, yeah, but I'm not signing a gag order. You're going to give me 10. I'm suing you for 200 million. You're giving me 10 million. Good. I'll take it. Lawyer's going to get a third. But I'm going to open my mouth. And obviously that's the thing more than the money that they don't want. So it's like you said, and I know it's kind of be careful what you ask for. You kind of hope that, and I'll say 5, not 6 of the Supreme Court justices, because Joe and I say on the show, Jennifer, all the time, John Roberts is not to be trusted. The quote unquote conservative. He's the type of guy that will stab you in the back as a so-called conservative. Okay. But the others, let's say for argument's sake, Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito would probably be more reliable. And then, like you said, I don't know if I'd want to take that chance. I like to think that they're out of all these lawsuits, Jennifer Lahl, I like to think somebody's going to do it. Somebody is going to say, you know what? Screw the money. I'm going to take my chances. I'm going to take this all the way up. and see what happens. Jennifer Lahl's joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please go out and buy her book, the Transition Diaries. That's available at Ignatius Press. You can buy it on Amazon. If you like it, we prefer you support Ignatius Press. Joe Resinello.
Just to piggyback on what you guys were saying, ultimately, I think what will happen is insurance companies don't like to pay out money. So what will happen is, as these lawsuits continue, the malpractice insurance it's already expensive, will climb, and doctors will just say, I can't afford it, so I'm not going to do it, because it comes down to dollars and cents. I don't rely anymore on shaming people or even our court system, because we've gone too far as a nation. Our people, if you ask me, we are lost in many ways. What people understand is money, sadly, and we have to fight them on that battlefield. Our Lord says we have to be gentle as doves and shrewd as serpents. We have to be shrewd. And I believe when insurance companies are paying money, if people keep suing, which they should and will, they won't give the malpractice insurance to the hospitals, to the doctors, because it'll be too costly. It comes down to dollars and cents. So then it just comes to how it used to be. You flew to Sweden and you signed over a waiver and you did something crazy.
Joe, even they're backing off from that too, though.
And that's where I wanted to go. That's
okay.
a good segue. A lot of Europe, they've done this, and now they're basically seeing the consequences of it. Countries like France, countries like Denmark, they're saying, listen, it's particularly with kids, and they're like, this was a bad, quote unquote, experiment. The science is there. Everyone throws that term around, science, science, science. Well, the science is there. Read it. It's in Europe. And yet we're still full steam ahead. Why is that being ignored, Jennifer?
Gosh, I have so much to say on all that.
Please do.
Well, first, let me comment about insurance and follow the money, and that, money is a very good instruction rod. In the book, we talk about Grace, and Grace had a double mastectomy as part of her transition. And I don't believe anybody can transition. So when I use those words, audience, don't, a man is a man, a woman is a woman, full stop. She had her insurance company pay for her double mastectomy. So her insurance provider would, pay to remove absolutely healthy breasts. Now, when she detransitioned, her insurance provider would not cover for her to have breast reconstructive surgery. So, that's a reality. The insurance will pay to take healthy parts of your body off, but your insurance won't provide you to have, reparative kind of surgery. Texas is moving to introduce legislation down there that if you're an insurance provider that provides these kinds of treatments, in quotes, you have to provide treatment for detransitioners. So it's a two-way street, insurance companies. Well, that will be really interesting to watch, right? We have to pay to do it, and then when the person changes their mind, we have to pay to undo it. Washington University, Dr. Paul Hruz, H-R-U-Z, serious, studly man of Catholic faith, is an MD, PhD at Washington University. He fought tooth and nail as an endocrinologist, a pediatric endocrinologist, to not allow Washington University to open their gender clinic treating minors. He failed. They had their gender clinic. 6 months ago, Washington University closed down their gender clinic. First they had a big whistleblower, Jamie Reed, who spoke out. She's a lesbian woman who's married to a trans man, and she worked in their gender clinic. She actually opposed Paul Hruz for many years when he was trying to stop the clinic. She blew the whistle. They closed down their gender clinic a few months back because of liability. Insurance professional liability. They're afraid of being sued. Now, what they did down in Florida is beautiful. To me, the model in Florida is the way to go. The medical professional societies in the state of Florida, the American Academy of Physicians in Florida, et cetera, said, this is not how we're going to practice medicine. Doctors don't do this in Florida. So they didn't act legislatively, which I think is great, because when you act legislatively, you get new lawmakers in and they undo laws and they pass new laws. But when you've got the doctors saying, as a professional society, as doctors, we don't do that. To me, that's the beautiful way that this all should be handled. And you're right. 2 weeks ago, the United Kingdom says, thou shalt not block puberty on children anymore, because there's no data. There's no evidence that this is safe, beneficial, and helpful.
We know Jennifer Lahl joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please go out and buy the book, The Detransition Diaries. We know, Jennifer, that we're talking about all this on one level. And again, I don't mean to put this on you. Joe and I are always obviously looking for what is fundamentally going on that probably has nothing to do with transitioning kids or adults. Okay. It's probably not probably, I would say it is. It's cultural Marxists, and this is the group du jour that they're going to use as their proxy warriors in trying to basically destroy the family. I mean, look, they've been successful at destroying families through no fault divorce and things like that, abortion, sexual liberation, sexual revolution in the 1960s. These are all cultural Marxist movements. I mean, that's what they are. Joe and I just happen to think that this is it was gay marriage. You mentioned California and, popular voting. Well, people of California voted against gay marriage. Seems like the state didn't care and the judges didn't care. They went ahead and they did it anyway. They brought that one to the Supreme Court. My point is this. Would you agree with us that what we're fighting against ultimately here is the same thing we've been fighting against, or at least conservative-minded people have been fighting against for a very long time, which is cultural Marxism, the idea that the Marxists need to destroy everything in their path to be able to fulfill their vision of what society should look like.
No, I agree. I mean, when you look at queer theory, right? We used to have women's studies and we had gender studies. Now we have queer theory, whatever the heck that means, which, is a cultural Marxist move. Whoever they are, these people, they want to destroy the family. They see it as their moral duty to take our children away. And that, our children are, Biden says this, that, our children are everybody's children. No, they're not.
Yeah.
My children are my children, hands off my children, your children are your children. So, and they not only want to destroy it, and I think one of the chapters in the book looks at some of the perverted men along the way, because there was quite a few men that were driving all of this, from, Alfred Kinsey and John Money and Harry Benjamin, that wanted to do all these creepy things with boys and men and, just pervert stuff. They want us to celebrate it. They don't want us to tolerate. They want us to fully embrace and celebrate this destruction of, human civilization.
But isn't that what Antonio Gramsci was all about? In other words, don't overtly attack the institution, corrupt it from within. It wasn't good enough for Stalin, by the way, because Stalin actually exiled Gramsci. But having said that, Gramsci was right. The slow and long march through the institutions, whether it be the family, whether it be the church, whether it be the media, whether it be the government, whether it be business, that long march has been wildly successful. And this idea of more than two genders that wasn't around up until about 5 minutes ago, all right, is all just part and parcel of that whole plan. Because put it like this. I'll throw this over to you. Okay. We have, and again, I don't know why people don't see it, Jennifer Lahl. I don't know why people don't see it. You have parents going up in front of school boards and they're saying we're opposed to this. I don't want these books in the library. I don't want these books in my kids. I pay. Joe says on the show all the time, I pay taxes too. I have a say in this too. If I have my kids in the public school, I don't want this. And here's the response. I'm going to throw it over to you. And this is why you know that there's another agenda. The teachers then go up and now they're repeating the same mantra that the media is repeating, which is, what qualifies you as a parent to tell us how to teach your children? I've heard Joy Reid say it. I've heard MSNBC say it. I've heard CNN say it. And on YouTube, all videos of teachers that go up in front of the school boards. And that's the question they ask. If that doesn't wake people up, Jennifer, I don't know what will. What qualifies me is that's my son. Or that's my daughter. That's what qualifies me to tell you what the F to do or what the F not to do. Sorry to get so angry, but I'm going to throw that over to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it gets back to the fact that they think that our children are their children and that they know better and they can tell us how to raise our children and what they're going to be taught or not taught. But I do think parents are going to win. You know, I'm the forever optimist. I love watching those school board meetings where they get up there and they just start reading the book that's in the classrooms, and they're shut down because it's too vulgar.
Right.
But it's okay that my son hears this in fourth grade, but I can't read it to a room of, you know, adults at the school board meeting. So you know, yeah, I mean, but it's a Trojan horse. All these ideas have creeped in slowly. It's like the frog that doesn't know that the water's getting hotter. You know, and so many of these ideas they slipped in through, you know, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to be charitable. The teachers union, you know, Randy Weingartner or whatever, Weingartner, you know, the one that locked kids down for years so they didn't get the flu. You know, it creeped into medicine. It creeped into the academy. I mean, Judith Butler in my backyard at UC Berkeley, she gave us the word queer. I mean, you know, the non-binary, the gender fluid, all that BS that, you know, that women, you know, and feminism, you know, once we started dismantling that women and men are different and we're all the same, and it just starts blurring. You know, it's a distortion of, yes, women, I'm happy I can vote. I'm happy I can go out and buy a house if I want to buy a house, but I'm way different than my husband and he's way different than me. You know, it creeped into medicine. It's creeped into, I mean, Hollywood. I'm learning Spanish on an app. And I'm at this, you know, every time I progress, I get a new lesson. I now have, you know, transgender lessons in my I'm like, I just want to learn Spanish.
Right. Right. And ultimately, and I'm going to hand it over to Joe, Jennifer Lahl Jr. is here at the front line with Joe and Joe, her book, The Transition Diaries. Please go out and buy it. We know that all these crazy kooky ideas, they all start at the universities. Because we know the whole idea of hate speech is just a leftist social construct. There's no such thing as hate speech, but they used it, you know, it's concocted at, you know, Harvard Law School or Yale Law School. The question the professor asks is, well, how do we get around the First Amendment? How about we call it hate speech? And if you say a man is a man and a woman is a woman, you're committing violence against someone. Last time I checked, Jennifer Lahl, if you commit violence against someone, you go to jail. That's why they say to misgender someone is an act of violence. Well, what does that lead to? If I'm committing an act of violence, well, that means I could be arrested. That means I could be prosecuted. That means I can go to jail. But I'm being too long-winded. Let me hand it over to Joe, Jennifer Lahl.
Get the broom.
Get the broom. But you might, instead of using the broomstick to hit them over the head, we just need to clean it out. We just need to clean it out. Just use the broom to clean it out.
Jennifer, you're a nurse. I want you to talk about for us, because I want to be educated, long and short-term consequences of this on kids. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people don't know. It's happening in real time. Break it down. They always say follow the science. Fauci, follow the science. Okay, Mr. Fauci, I want to hear the science. Jennifer, tell us the consequences, long and short.
He sure did disappear fast, huh?
Well, thank God.
Well, at first, there is a long and a short-term consequence for encouraging anyone to believe a lie. You know, you are being complicit in this notion that you were born in the wrong body and you can change sex. So I think first stop, we need to acknowledge that that's harmful to encourage lying and believing in lies. If you can imagine, you know, putting a female body on high dose testosterone or a male body on high dose estrogen. And these are medications that you have to take for life if you're going to pretend for life that you're the opposite sex. And you know, Dr. Paul Hu speaks as an endocrinologist very poignantly to this risk, and it's through your entire body. You know, it's not like estrogen just affects one part of your body. It's your, you know, your brain, your heart, your bone health, all these things, because you are taking very high. A woman has to take a lot of testosterone so she can grow a beard, and so she can deepen her voice, and so her body fat will distribute more like a man and be more leaner. The same is true of a male body on high dose estrogen. Now, if you get into the surgical side of things, you know, you've just doubled down on lifelong complications and risks. Grace in the book, she just had a baby. She was worried if her fertility would be destroyed. And because these drugs and these procedures ruin people's fertility, which is why we now offer transgender children fertility preservation. Before we put you on these high dose cross-sex hormones, let's freeze and bank your egg and sperm. So once we've destroyed your fertility, you can go to the fertility doctor later and have your own children using your own egg or sperm. It's crazy. She laments now that she can't breastfeed her child. She's very glad that her taking testosterone for as long as she didn't destroy her fertility, but now she can't nurse a baby. Richie in the Lost Boys, this is too graphic. I don't know how to say it. These men have to dilate their neo-vaginas. They have to do that twice a day, or else the hole will shut, because they're not supposed to have a hole like that. They're a man. It's like the human body is designed to heal. And if you have an open sore, it wants to close. So they have to manually. It takes him 30 minutes to sit on the toilet just to urinate. They have brain fog. They talk about the brain fog from taking these powerful hormones that just cloud your ability to think and recall things. So it's not pretty. And I can't even imagine how a parent could consent to puberty blocking their child if they're told all this stuff. Puberty, the lie is it can be paused. It just buys us time. Then we can, if the child changes his mind, we can then turn it back on. No, your body is set to go through human development stages all through the course of your lifetime, from before you're even born till you become a very old person like your grandmother that wants to hit people with brooms, all the way through. And it's supposed to happen at a certain time. Can you imagine blocking puberty on a 11-year-old kid, and then at 17 going, okay, I changed my mind, and now at 17 you're going to go through puberty? It doesn't work like that. That window of time is gone. Yeah.
And the thing is, when I hear like what you just described, Jennifer, I don't know how more and more people, I mean, maybe probably this is because maybe sometimes people are not just seeking out information on this, or they're getting their information from the mainstream media, which is complicit in all of this. I just can't help that, as based on what I just described, as you're accusing me, because I say a man is a man and a woman is a woman, that I'm committing an act of violence, and yet you've done this to Richie that you just described, or Chloe Cole. Okay, you've done this to them. You've committed an actual act of violence, and I'm the bad guy. So
Yeah.
I can't help, Jennifer, but to feel sadness on the one hand, because as you said, this stuff is irrevocable. You're not taking it back. Okay. And the more and more people like us have to get out there and say it. You making documentaries and writing your book, the Detransition Diaries. Please, everybody, go out and buy it. We have to control the narrative here. We have to take back the conversation. I liked, to Jennifer, in the last 2 minutes of the show, which has been absolutely fabulous. And thank you so much. We hope people are going to share this video all over the place. How about you try in the last couple minutes, as somebody who basically now has become somebody who's an expert in all this, please give us something hopeful in all of this, and things we can be doing, even if it's just on a very local or familial level, what we could be doing so that we know that sooner or later this is all going to come to an end.
Well, I think there's several things that I think give me hope, that I hope your listeners will find hopeful as well. And that is the growing number of people that are speaking out, whether they transitioned and then they detransition, whether they be parents that are challenging this narrative, whether it's more and more whistleblowers like the physician down in Texas. Those are all hopeful signs. I think a next big hopeful sign might be, that we have a successful legal challenge. So all these lawsuits that are in the pipeline right now, that they would pop and that we would have vindication, because I think that will be everything will just, the brakes will be pumped. I think what people can do, I guess since we're short on time, I'll speak to parents. Whether you have a child that's struggling with these kind of ideas, whether you're in your community, in your school, to be bold and be courage. We need adults in the room. We need people that are truth tellers, that that are willing to count the cost. And I know the cost can be really high for some people, which keeps people quiet. But we need a lot more people to be adults in the room and say, this is wrong. This is not truth. I'm not a mean person. I'm not a hater. I want the best for your children. I want the best for my children. And parents, get your kids off the internet. Take their smartphones away, really monitor what their access is to online, because they're steeped in this stuff online that's just sending them, bombarding them these evil messages.
And I'm going to follow up by saying, parents, please educate yourself. And one of the things that you could do is go out and buy Jennifer's book, The Detransition Diaries. You could get it on Amazon. If you happen to be on Amazon, we hope you go buy it from the publisher, Ignatius Press. And please support our Catholic publishers. Recommend to your Catholic parish, if there's a bookstore, that they buy a couple of copies and put it on their shelf. We promise you it's going to sell. Jennifer, one more time, the website and where people could find you so they can watch the documentaries. Also, I'm going to watch these documentaries with my family. I'm going to go on, put on YouTube, and I'm going to watch everything on there. Tell our audience where they could watch them.
Yeah, the website is cbc-network.org, and our YouTube channel is Center for Bioethics and Culture Network. And all of our films are free. I'm not here grifting. Most of our films are available in many languages. I'm actually off to Italy next week. I'll be speaking in Rome, and I'm bringing the Detransition Diaries book in my suitcase. So we try to make all of our content available for free and in many languages. These problems we've discussed today are happening around the world.
And Joe,
Jennifer
real quick,
Lahl.
buy a broom. Because a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. There's no different. Buy a broom.
That's a great place to end it. Jennifer Lahl, thank you so much for coming on the front line with Joe and having this important conversation. Needless to say, if you like, you're welcome back at the front line with Joe anytime, our sister.
Great. Thank you. I'd love to come back. You guys are fun.
All right. We try to be. And thanks again. Thank you all out there for joining us on the Veritas Catholic Radio Network, 1350 on your AM dial, 103.9 on your FM dial. Please, if you're listening to this, share the app and share it on the radio. And also, if you're watching this on social media, please share it all over the place. That's one way of getting the message out there to thwart the mainstream media, is that when you see a conversation like this, that's this important, please share it. Thanks once again. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.